Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Great. All right, how about that UK win? Just so you guys know, Sip predicted it, okay? to the exact score. He's also predicted the UK to win the entire freaking thing, right? Right, Sip? We're gonna win the whole thing? Yes, sir. Everybody's like, maybe. I don't know. All right, I'm gonna figure out how this thing works here. Okay, cool. All right, so we got the little clear. All right, guys, so as you know, Josh Cummins, Jeremy Linden, Dusty, David Hodap, we went to Miami last weekend and spent some time at what was called a 10X Growth Conference. So we went down, spent 3 days basically at this conference hanging out with highly successful individuals from all over the world. Mr. Fletcher?
What's up, buddy? Sip in here?
Yeah.
Can I get you?
Spent some time with these guys, some highly influential, highly successful people from all over the United States. So, some of the guys that we spent some time with were Grant Cardone. You guys ever heard of him? Anybody ever heard of Grant Cardone? Go ahead and raise your hand if you've heard of Grant Cardone. Okay, raise your hand if you've heard of Grant Cardone a little bit too much every once in a while. Okay, we study and we train on Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone has built an empire worth about $600 million. Okay, this is a guy who used to be a druggie, used to be an alcoholic, had a lot of trouble in his early days, started off as a car salesman, decided one day he was going to start training people on how to do sales, and has built that into an empire now worth $600 million. He was, as it says there on the top, he was a man who says he can. We're going to focus on that just a little bit. The man who says he can and the man who says he cannot are both correct. Okay, do you understand what that means? If you say you can do something, you can do it. If you say you can't do something, ain't gonna happen. Okay, that's where it all starts. We also spent time with a guy named Tim Grover. Tim Grover, if you get the opportunity, you need to read his book. He wrote a book called Relentless, and this man is nothing short of relentless. He was intense. The speech that he gave, the information that he gave us was incredible. Okay, Tim Grover was an athletic trainer. You remember those? You remember those people back in high school? You had like the athletic trainer that ran around with the tape and squirting water bottle, water in everybody's mouth, that kind of thing. He was that guy. He ended up taking that to where he basically was the athletic trainer for Michael Jordan. Okay, he became Jordan's trainer. And Jordan actually paid him massive amounts of money, not to just train Jordan, but to not train anybody else. Okay, that's what Jordan told him. I'll pay you, but you can't train anybody else. After he got done training Michael Jordan, he ended up training the likes of Mr. Kobe Bryant, Charles Barkley, Dwayne Wade, and many, many, many more in the NBA. Trained them to success. So if you get a chance to read his book, go to his site, you'll see some crazy stuff, man. Like he's down to the very specifics, where you eat, where you sleep, what kind of pillow you slept on, what kind of bed you slept in, are you fighting with your girlfriend, are you having enough sex, all that stuff. That's what he gets into with these guys, the mental side of the game, because he knows that the man who says he can and the man who says he cannot are both correct. We also spent time with a lady named Danelle Delgado. Danelle Delgado was, basically, she was a battered wife. She was in a bad relationship. She had a couple kids that almost got taken away from her. When she almost lost her kids, she made a decision right there then and that day, because she was working 80, 90 hours a week, 3 different jobs. She decided this wasn't freedom, this wasn't the life she wanted to live, and she wasn't going to have it anymore. So she told herself that she can, and she went out and started making contacts with some of the biggest and most influential people in the world, and she went out and built a business, went from broke to millionaire in 2 years. Okay? Just establishing contacts, building a fan base, and basically now teaches success, how to build success in your business. Awesome lady. Okay, we also spent some time with a guy, you may have heard his name around here before, but a guy by the name of Les Brown. Les Brown was born in an abandoned building with his twin brother. Born on the floor in an abandoned building. Okay, never knew his parents. He was adopted by a woman that he calls Mamie Brown. He was adopted by Mamie Brown, and Mamie Brown had him and 12 other kids, raised them all. Les Brown was labeled educational, mentally retarded as a child, and believed for the longest time he would never be able to amount to anything. One day he had a teacher who told him to come up onto the chalkboard and do a problem. He told that teacher, "I can't do the problem, I'm retarded, I just can't do it." The teacher said, "What people say you are is not who you are. What you believe up here is what matters when you become a man who says he can." Les Brown has made $64 million speaking to large companies and people all over the world. He has made a tremendous difference in my life and a tremendous difference in lives all across the world. Phenomenal man. Phenomenal. We also spent time with a guy named Lewis Howes, and I always say his last name wrong. Howes, whatever it is. I always say his last name wrong. He was an Olympic athlete. Spent some time doing that, knew all about success, ended up deciding he was going to do some podcasts and created this thing called School of Greatness. If you get the opportunity, download the podcast and listen to it. He decided he was going to go out and he was going to interview big time people. That's where it started. He actually got Grant Cardone to do an interview for him early in his podcast 7 years ago. But he decided he was going to interview people, make connections, talk about success, help people develop a discipline for success just like he did. And as of last weekend, when he left on Saturday, he was going to be on a show with Ellen. He was getting ready to go record an Ellen show, and now lives a life as he's a fairly massive celebrity. He's very well known. So we got to spend a lot of time with these guys, and the story was pretty much the same every time. The man who says he can and the man who says he cannot are both correct. So ultimately, what I took, one of the biggest takeaways I had from the 10X Growth Con was this right here. If a man empties his purse into his head, no man can take it away from him. An investment in knowledge always pays the best interest. What are we feeding our minds? Okay, we've got to be reading, we've got to be training, we've got to be studying, we've got to be paying attention to what goes in here. Because here's how the mind is a crazy thing. Okay, it's hungry. All the time it's hungry. It has to eat. Okay, so you've got to feed it constantly. And if you're not deliberately feeding it the good things that are going to take you to the next place in life, it's just going to consume the junk. It's going to consume the junk. Your life will be a mess. This is where it all starts. This was the biggest takeaway from the conference, is it all starts with investing in your mind. You are more valuable than you think. This guy right here, you guys all know him, right? Grant Cardone? This is Grant Cardone sitting up here with Damon John. Damon John, you guys all know from Celebrity Apprentice. He also does, he does tremendous things. Like if he were to run for president, I think he'd have a good shot. Okay? He's in a lot of organizations. He's helping a lot of people. He's making a big difference in the world. He took time out of his weekend to hang out with Grant Cardone. Okay? The sales guy from Chicago, I think it was. Okay? So he's spending time with Grant. He goes up on stage, he's talking, and he's just powerful. He's so intelligent, has not all the answers, but has a ton of answers. And as he's sitting on stage and he's talking and he's giving us all this information, he stops and he's just like, just so you guys know, this guy Grant Cardone right here has changed my life. This is what Damon John's saying. Like, Damon John's a bigwig, created FUBU. He's saying Grant made an impact on his life. During the same weekend, I'm sitting on a boat with Grant. I'm blessed enough to be on a boat with Grant. And Grant stops and grabs my tie. He grabs my hex tie, takes a look at it, and basically admired my tie. This guy that's admired by Damon John admired my tie. And it made me realize we're all more valuable than we think. I thought I was going to go out there and just, get to hang out with these guys. Well, these guys brought me up to their level, or maybe came down to mine. I don't know. But they made me feel special. They made me feel important. They made me feel like I was the only one. When Grant floated around this thing, he literally would stop. He's got all this chaos going on. There's thousands of people at this event. He's trying to host it. He's also running a $600 million empire. He's keeping track of his staff. He's got his kids. He's doing all of this. But he made sure to stop and talk to every single person there. Made everybody feel special. Made everybody feel important. Made everybody feel like they were the only one. And we complain that we can't get to everybody on a Saturday? No, sir. It's just a choice. He made a choice, and it's powerful, and that's how he's been able to build so many fans. Tim Grover, when he went up and he gave his speech, that's Tim there on the left. There on the right, that's Kobe Bryant's championship ring that I got the pleasure of holding in my hand and got to take a picture of. But one of the things Tim Grover taught me is he taught me that it's a sprint, not a marathon. How many times have you been told the opposite? It's a marathon, not a sprint. Take your time. You got all the time in the world. No, you don't. Josh Cummins said it best this weekend. He was talking to me. He said, dude, we're not going to live 1,000 years. We're not. Average life expectancy, what, 80? Not to be dark or morbid, but there's probably people in this room that won't be alive 10 years from now. It's a sprint. We've got to get on it every single day. Full gear, full speed ahead. It's a sprint, not a marathon. That's what this guy teaches, and I got to spend so much time with Tim Grover. I got to have dinner with him one day, and I got to talk to him. He's telling me a story about Kobe Bryant and how these guys are just relentless in their pursuit, in their discipline, and their why is so deep. You know, they knew they had to take care of their families, and they knew they had a reputation to uphold, and they knew that they had to be the absolute best in the business. And so Kobe had hired Tim to help him, and they win a championship in 2009. And Kobe Bryant tells the team, you got to make a ring for this guy. Tim's not on the team. Tim's not on the staff. He doesn't work for the Lakers. Kobe Bryant said, you got to make a ring for this guy, because this guy has had such an impact in my life and in my career that he's one of the champions. That ring right there is bad to the bone, just so you guys know. It's huge, massive. Tim takes it off, sets it in my hand. I'm like, ooh. You guys know how I feel about the Lakers, so it just couldn't have worked out any better. He also, in his book, he talks about coolers, closers, and cleaners, and we're not going to get far into that because we don't have time today. But coolers are good, closers are great, and cleaners are relentless. He breaks it down here. He says there's 13 qualities of a cleaner, but he's not going to number them 1 through 13, because when you number something 1 through 13, you think that one has more value than the other, and they're all equally valuable. So he numbers them all number 1. You go harder when everyone else has had enough. You go into the zone and control the uncontrollable. You know exactly who you are. If you go further down, there's a big one right here. It says you don't compete with anyone. You find your opponent's weakness and attack. That's the one that stuck out with me the most. You find your opponent's weakness and attack. You guys realize we're in an industry, there's a lot of guys out there that got some weaknesses? Right? Okay, the auto industry has a negative stigma associated with it, right? What are some of the weaknesses? Well, typically customer service is a weakness of the auto industry, right? People just don't get treated right. Follow-up is a weakness of the auto industry. People don't get a call back. Follow-through is a weakness of the industry, that we tell people we're going to do something and then we don't do it. So these are weaknesses of the auto industry. So what do we got to do as cleaners, as relentless on this mission that we're on? We got to find the weaknesses, and that's where we attack. It's easy. We got to have the best customer service out there, plain and simple. If we tell somebody we're going to do something, we got to do it. We have to follow through every single time. We have to follow up with our customers. We got to make sure that they know that we care about them, not just today, but tomorrow and in the future. What other weaknesses in the industry? People don't train, right? They're not pros. They don't know their product. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. We're not going to be those guys. We're going to be the opposite. That's the weakness. We're going to be pros. We're going to train. We're going to do it right. Every single time. All the time. Danelle Delgado. This one got me right here. She got me. You can tell. She got me. She said, put what you learn into action, okay? She's giving her speech. She's up there on the stage, and Danelle's awesome, okay? She's bubbly. She like flies in from Australia or something, comes like running out on the stage. She sits her kids down right there, like runs up on the stage, starts doing her thing. She's like, just got in from Australia, and as soon as I leave here, I'm gonna be going over here. Like, she's just go, 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 go. Full of energy, right? And the whole time she's talking, she's like, raise your hand if this, and raise your hand if that. Raise your hand if this, and raise your hand if that, and raise your hand. And we're just like, oh my God, I'm raising my hand so much. What is she trying to do? And then at one point she says, raise your hand if you have read a Grant Cardone book. We all raise our hand. She says, raise your hand if you study and you watch Grant Cardone videos. I raise my hand. She said, raise your hand if you've read 10X. I raise my hand. She says, okay, now keep your hand up if you've read his books and you've studied his training, but you don't live the strategies that he's teaching. And I thought, shit. I gotta keep my hand up. I gotta keep my hand up, man. I've read 10X rule, right? 10X rule states it's very simple. You take your goal, whatever your goal is, you multiply it times 10. Multiply it times 10, and then you do whatever it takes and whatever you have to do, whatever massive amounts of action to achieve that goal. Grant says we're all too small-minded. We think too small. I've read that stuff for years. But then we go and we set a goal of 10,000 cars. We almost sell 10,000 cars. We come up a little bit short. And then what did we set the goal for the next year? 12,000. 12,000 is not 10,000 times 10. It's not. No matter how you look at it. You can justify it. You can justify it. You can say, oh, well, we got the one store and we don't have a whole lot of land, and we're kind of landlocked over here, and we don't have the ability to get to all the people on Saturday, and you can only so many cars, and there's got to be a cap, right? There's got to be a ceiling. We justify. We make justifications. That's what the mind does. It makes excuses. Well, we're done making excuses here. Absolutely 100% done. And so you guys know this is from me. Okay? This isn't from Josh. I've talked to Josh. I know where Josh is at. I get it, but I want you to know this is for me. This is my commitment. Okay, the Dan Cummins Chevrolet and Buick Group is going to sell 100,000 cars in a year. That's now the goal. That's now the target. Now, how we get there, that's a whole different story. Okay? It's not going to be easy. I've done some math. I've run some numbers, and I've figured it out somewhat of a plan. Okay, in order to sell 100,000 cars, let's just say, basically I did some research. I found out of the top 150 dealer groups in the United States, the #1 auto dealer group, it's a group called Auto Nation, okay? Auto Nation sells 606,000 cars a year. 606,000 cars a year. They have 282 stores. If you break down the math, they average 193 cars per store. 193. You guys have done that in a weekend before. You've done that in 2 days. So as far as I'm concerned, kudos to them for building an empire and becoming #1 as far as the groups, but they ain't got nothing on us in this team. Nothing on us in this team. So if they can do it, we can do it, and we can do it better. So I ran some quick math and I thought, well, let's see, let's say each store, we got 100,000 cars each store. Let's just use a low number. Each store does 330 units, somewhere around there. That means I need 25 stores. We've got to have 25 stores planted strategically across the United States, averaging 330 units somewhere in there. Okay? That's how we get to our goal. Now, how do we get the owner to buy 25 stores? That's the next question, right? Okay, well, first of all, we put it out there and we say we're going to do it. That's the first thing. Then we do what Tim Grover told us to do, and we get relentless. Relentless on our mission. We force him to buy more stores. We pour so many people in here and so many fans into this company that he's got no choice. He's like, damn, man, I'm losing business. There's customers walking in the door and I don't have the opportunities to sell them. So we force them to sell more stores. Now why do we want to do that? Why is that important for you guys that are sitting right here right now? Well, I did some more math. If I've got 25 stores, how many sales managers do I need? How many finance guys? How many BDC directors? How many general sales managers? How many GMs? I did the math and I need 200. Speaking of finance, go get them to you. I need 200. I need 200 sales managers, finance managers, GSMs, and GMs to sell 100,000 cars. At least 200. That's based on our current numbers, okay? That's not accounting all the human resources people and the title people and the service people and the parts people and all that. When you do all that, it's about 750 employees. But I need 200 leaders. Where do you think I'm gonna get my leaders from? Think I'm gonna go out on the street and just try to find a leader that doesn't know Dan Cummins, doesn't know our philosophies, doesn't know how we build fans? Where am I gonna get them from? I'm gonna get them from this room. Simple as that. I'm gonna get them from this room. So please understand, if you think that we reached the top, you're wrong. And if you think that what you're doing every day right now doesn't matter, you're wrong. This guy right here, there is no success without successors. I snuck out on Jeremy and Josh. They were listening to a guy on the internet stuff. I'm not sure, that stuff's all Chinese to me. And I knew Les was coming up next. And so I snuck out. I said, hey, Jeremy, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom and I just kind of hovered. Just started hovering in the back room like, Les is coming. I know Les is coming. And his sons came around the corner. His sons came around the corner, and what I didn't know is that his son had just had a stroke, and his son Calvin had just had a stroke, and Les didn't think he was gonna make it, and so his sons were there to surprise him. And so I'm sitting in the back, I get to meet his sons, and I'm hanging out, and here comes Les Brown around the corner, and I hop up real quick, and introduce myself to Mr. Les Brown, thank him for all that he's done in my life, and as he shakes my hand, we take a picture, and as I go to give him a hug, he sees his son over my shoulder, and he just starts bawling. He just starts crying. This guy is he's so divine, he's so in tune with his emotion, he's not afraid. The whole time he's on stage speaking, we're crying. I'm in tears, Jeremy's in tears, Josh is in tears. It's crazy. I've heard this guy tell his story 6 million times. He tells the same story every time he gets up on stage, but when he tells the story, he tells it in such a way, it's just so impactful, you feel it in your bones. It's crazy. In his story, he talks about there is no success without successors, and that's his motivation is he wants to go out there and tell his story so that he can connect with people, so that he can show them how he went from retarded and born on an abandoned floor to becoming the man that he is today. He wants to teach people that so that when you're going through your struggles, you know that there's a way, that there's an answer, that who people say you are is not who you have to be. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to continue to build successors. That's what we're trying to do with each and every single one of you guys. We can't sell 100,000 cars unless you guys elevate your game. That's our job. That's our responsibility, right, Paul? Right, Zach? That's what we're here for, to build the successors. Les also taught us that everyone has a story, but most people are afraid to tell it. Les's story is not fun in the beginning, but it gets really fun in the end. My story was not fun in the beginning, but it's starting to get really fun in the end. But a lot of people are afraid to tell this story. Our story here, the story of the underdogs in Paris, Kentucky, that went from 120 units 6 years ago to we're going to crack 1,000 this month, from 120 to 1,000. That's an awesome story that we need to tell. That's a story that we need to tell, and we need to tell it in such a way that we connect with the person, not in a way where we brag. Like, oh, we're high and mighty, we sell all these cars. Nobody cares about that. What they care about is the triumph. What they care about is the setbacks. What they care about is your individual stories, because we all have them in this room. We've all been on that abandoned building floor in one way or another. We've all been there, and look where we're at now, and look where we're headed. So we got to make sure we're telling the story. Josh Cummins and the internet team and our website and our live streams and our social media, it all has to tell the story. You guys have got to be telling the story. When you sell a car and you make a difference in somebody's life, you have to tell that story. You got to put it out there. You got to take a picture. You got to take a video with the customer. Hey, Mr. Customer, tell everybody about your experience here at Dane Cummins. Let people know your story, because when people hear your story and they connect with you, then that's how you build fans. And we've got to build fans. If we're going to sell 100,000 cars, right? We got to build fans. If we're going to force Josh to open more stores so that we can hire more leaders, so that you guys can elevate your careers and your paths and reach your goals, then we got to tell the story. Everybody. We got to share the feeds. We got to make sure everybody knows. We got to tell our story. All right? Lewis Hose, the guys I was, Hose House, whatever it is, the guy I was telling you about, built the brand. All he talked about, he said, you got to go broke on the brand. He said, you have to be different, you have to be unique, and then build the freaking brand. For 45 minutes. Build the brand, 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 build the brand. Just hammered us. Hammered us. You got to build the brand. People have to know our name. They have to. We have to be different. We have to be unique. Are we different? Yes. Are we unique? Yes. Absolutely. We're doing things that nobody else in the industry does. Okay? We have to build that brand. We have to continue to put our name out there. We have to continue to connect our name with the auto industry standard. And by standard, here's what I mean. Here's my example. Customer walks into a dealership in Texas. Okay? They walk into a dealership in Texas and they receive average service, or an unprofessional salesperson, or they don't get treated special, or like they're important, or like they're the only one. I want that customer to look that guy in the eye and say, Dane Cummins says, you're supposed to treat me this way. Dane Cummins says that this is how I'm supposed to buy a car. That's where we need to be. Whether or not people buy a car from us, of course we want them to. Of course we want them to. But the overall mission is to eradicate the negative stigmas associated with the car industry. And the only way we do that is we've got to eradicate it everywhere. Not just in Paris. It can't just be here with our customers. It's got to be nationwide. Why? Because it's important. Because these people are buying a car that's going to change their life. They're not buying a freaking stick of Gillette deodorant. This is how they get to work. This is how they carry their families around. This is how they provide for their families. Okay? This is how they get to spend time with their families, connect with their kids, go to a movie, go to Disneyland like Sam and those guys. Okay, it's life. And because of that one reason alone, since it's such a huge, important part of your life, they deserve to have this experience when they buy a car, no matter whether it's here or anywhere else in America. So we're going to build the brand. We're going to continue to build the brand and tell our story. When people walk into a dealership, we will be the standard. Period. And these other dealerships, they either need to change the way they do things and offer that experience, or get out of the way. Because we're coming. 25 stores over 50 states. We're coming. And you know how we attack. We don't just hang out in Kentucky. Right? We hit up Ohio. We hit up Tennessee. If you got a border closed, we're coming at you. So get on board or get out the way. That's the philosophy. Relentless. Grant came on at the end. He said, all I want to do is help people. Man. That's all I want to do is help people, man. That's the bottom line right there. The more people we help, the more fans we will have. And everybody deserves it. Everybody deserves it. Every speaker that came up there, every person that I came in contact with, that was the bottom line. They just wanted to help people. They wanted to help them find better ways for success. They wanted to help them develop disciplines on feeding the mind. They wanted to help make their lives better. That's all anybody wanted to do that was on that stage. We weren't hanging out, no offense, against any celebrities or anything like that, but we weren't hanging out with people that were famous for their talent. Let's just put it that way. We weren't hanging out with people that were famous for their talent. We were hanging out with people that once had nothing and now have this. They're humble, every single one of them was humble as can be, and all they wanted to do was help people. And that's all I want to do. When I came into this dealership, that was the mindset. Like, hey, I hate the car business. I hate everything about it. I hate the hours that we have to spend. I hate the way that managers kick my teeth in. I hate that I can't do things with my family. I hate the environment. I hate hanging out with druggies and alcoholics and crooks. I hated everything about it. I didn't want anything to do with this industry. So regretfully, I was good at it. So when I decided it was time to come back, I decided I was going to change and I was going to make it a place where I could help people. I could help you guys. Put you in an environment that's awesome, that's going to expand your minds and grow your lives. And I think so far we've done a pretty good job, but we can get a lot better. That makes sense? Grant Cardone, Tim Grover, Danelle Delgado, Lewis Hose, Les Brown, all these guys, they just fed us so much information and they've opened our minds to the possibilities of what we're going to do going forward. We're going to sell 100,000 cars in a year. That's what we're going to do. We're going to open stores across the nation. Can I tell you when? No. Don't know when. I can kind of tell you when. I can't give you a date, but I can tell you when we have more fans than this place can handle, that's when it'll happen. When you guys are developing your individual businesses and you're sharing our story and you're building the brand, that's when it's going to happen. Whatever that is, Josh and them aren't afraid. He's not scared. He'll pull the trigger. He'll buy that next door. We just gotta show him that it's gotta happen. You guys with me on that? You guys are with me? Everybody's with me? Yes. Okay, if you're with me, stand up. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna read this together. If you're with me, read this with me, okay? All right? I am on a mission to eradicate the negative stigmas associated with the car business. I can do this by making people feel special, feel important, and feel like they're the only one. I will offer an experience that will exceed my customers' expectations today, tomorrow, and in the future. I will not just sell cars, I will create fans. Guys, let's get out there, sell a bunch of cars, let's tell our story, let's build the brand, and let's have an awesome stinking day.